Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and evening to everyone who's joined from across the globe. And thank you so much for joining us today for the webinar titled How Maritime Education Should Prepare Students for Operational Challenges. We are joined by two of our panelists, Alina and Waldemar. I will give a few minutes for attendees to join, and we shall start in a few minutes. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I think we've picked up pace now. We've got quite a few attendees, so we shall start now. As I said, today's webinar is titled as How Maritime Education Should Prepare Students for Operational Challenges. The maritime industry is changing at an unprecedented pace, and we are all aware of that. From digital transformation to sustainability initiatives to automation, cybersecurity, evolving international regulations, today's maritime professionals are expected not just to possess technical expertise, but far more than that management skills, soft skills. And today's discussion will definitely explore whether maritime education should just be keeping pace with these changing demands, or should it also structure in how institutions, educators, and students should bridge the gap between academic learning and operational readiness. Today we've had a pleasure of having two speakers as panelists with us, Alina and Waldemar. Alina, who is a senior maritime education and training professional who comes with over 20 plus years of experience, international education experience, and is a professional maritime trainer as well. Alina's had led development, delivery, and quality assurance of wide range of maritime programs within MLA College, and in fact is a curricular designer here at MLA College with us. We are delighted to be joined by Alina today. Alongside that, we've also got Mr. Waldemar, who is a master mariner and maritime higher education professional with over 30 plus years of experience. He's got experience across commercial shipping, expedition cruising, polar operations, and higher education. And drawing from their extensive command of experience in complex maritime operations. They will add the unique perspective that they have and the academic excellence that they have to our discussion today. Welcome aboard, guys.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
So, the first question that comes to my mind would be, when you think about the graduates that are entering the maritime industry today, what is the one operational challenge you believe that they are least prepared for? Alina, would you please answer this question for us?
Sure, Disha. Hi, hello everyone once again. Um, I think one of the most difficult things that currently we are experiencing is uncertainty. I think while there are specific sets of skills that we could gain knowledge for, very often we are joining a new workplace, we are joining for a prolonged period of time, and that workplace, that job role will be evolving. Some new strategies been put together where um, young specialists need to be able to develop into maybe more tactical or operationalize them. There will be
Mhm,
brainstorming of the new solutions. So dealing with this uncertainty is probably the most challenging, because if you're relatively young in the industry, that's where I think you might lack yet background or skills
mhm,
or understanding. Um, and I think it's just gaining that confidence of being able to deal with that uncertainty based on information you have studied, based on data you have collected, based on theories that you have come across, but getting that confidence to be able to face that uncertainty and face the challenge.
Thank you. Definitely in this, like, uncertain environment with everything changing around us with regards to economic volatility and industries sort of like, trying to keep a pace with everything that is changing around us. Do you think this gap is recent that exists, or do you think this has changed over the last decade?
Personally, I think it's there is quite a few academic research in the maritime education and training specifically, that constantly highlights this gap between education, training, and the industry. And I think
Mm-hmm.
we we have been putting too much emphasis on it from my personal standpoint. There's
Mm-hmm.
almost some sort of schizophrenic relationship with these gaps. If I'm thinking back to my education, I was not
Mm-hmm.
trained and not educated to do everything I do in my workplace today.
Right.
um, and I think partly this is normal. We are
Mm-hmm.
constantly going to be faced with new questions that we have not come across, and this is exactly what higher education is meant to do. The reason for this problem between of the gap between education and industry, I think, starts with the whole purpose of education. From my
Mm-hmm.
personal standpoint, I feel that we always try to make sure that in the maritime education, graduates, be it seafarers or any other maritime professions more widely, are able to join the workplace and start contributing to the operations immediately. And there is this strong emphasis on competence, which is
Mm-hmm.
uh, absolutely valid. But at the same time, the purpose of education should not be necessarily just to prepare for the job, because that's how we exactly
Absolutely.
create that gap. Because the job will change, the roles and tasks will evolve, and if you have
Mm-hmm.
prepared graduates only for the job, that's your first problem. So I think this is why higher education needs to be slightly broader and needs to develop
Right.
strong foundation, strong technical skills, and more importantly, soft skills and dealing with that uncertainty. So when circumstances change, graduates feel empowered and confident in tackling those.
Absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. Just making sure that they are, technologically equipped or they are getting the right sort of degree will not just be, fulfilling enough. I think we have to address other challenges as well. Mr. Waldemar, as universities, do you think we are addressing this challenge really effectively?
Um, in general, I think the education is failing in addressing, as Alina said, only competence.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
In that sense, I think in MLA we are a little bit ahead of other institutions because we are trying to develop not only knowledge and skills in the students, but also soft skills like critical thinking, decision making,
Mhm.
data analysis. And as Alina said, this the job can change anytime, but the soft skills you apply to any kind of situation. Adding
Mhm.
to Alina as well, the new managers in the maritime industry are facing not only uncertainty but complexity.
Mhm.
So they need
Absolutely.
to, they need to understand how not complicated, complex
Mhm.
complexity that decision making. Um, they need to make decisions, under certain percentage of uncertainty. But I understand also why the changes are happening and why it's so fast.
Mhm.
In that sense, um, I think it is important how you make the decision, but you need to understand first why you need to make that decision or why things are changing.
Mhm.
Uh, Today, the managers are facing a variety of factors that require to be more. Sometimes I like to say like a generalist than a specialist, and
Mhm.
probably the gap in the educational institution is like preparing everybody to be a specialist, to see one factor in this web of complexity,
Mhm.
instead of looking at the whole picture and understand uh, what's happening. The other the other thing that I think this is more social than educational probably, and it's a kind of controversial as well. Nowadays, the decision makers that need to understand this complexity, they belong to all the generations. Uh, when they were young, there was a lot of certainty in the world. There were recipes to apply to businesses, know-how, and they are very skeptical about technology and changes. They they are stuck in their paradigm. Um, so I think that also is a gap between. It's a generational gap that we need to sort. Between the current decision makers
Mhm.
uh, that see the world the way it used to be,
Right.
um, which brings certainty and comfort, and to face the reality that the world is complex nowadays and is there is a lot of uncertainties. So uh, in MLA we try to bridge that gap, with uh, trying to develop the soft skills to allow,
Right.
what we already stated.
Absolutely. I think we at MLA College definitely try to sort of build in that gap with the kind of curriculum that we've had. It's not just about the technical operations or the expertise, but rather management decisions, how they are influenced, and how we should communicate well. Right.
Exactly,
So
there is a
thank you.
lot of emphasis in technology,
Mm-hmm,
in
mm-hmm,
uh, in how to do something instead of just thinking about why we are doing what we're doing. In
mm-hmm,
that sense, there is a lot of risk when you only focus on that, because you try to apply recipes to that learn from old problems to new
mm-hmm.
problems.
Absolutely.
And I just wanted to contribute here to what Waldemar was saying is that
Mm-hmm,
I think it's very, very important to stress the complexity. I mean, we have seen recent geopolitical upheavals and how they contribute to increasing emissions,
mm-hmm,
and I think this is exactly why, me personally, not in just my official capacity in MLA, but personally, I do think that sustainability is one of the most critical skills that you can learn if you can learn thinking that way. I think we have used
mm-hmm,
to have degrees, business degrees, we have used to have operation or management in our degree title more than we have used to think about sustainability or resilience. But
Mm-hmm.
the whole purpose of um, MLA putting such a strong emphasis on sustainability of maritime operations is that through our programs we are trying to teach students to see the problem and all of the aspects of that problem. I mean, we can think about it in a simple terms like economic, environmental, and social. But in
Yeah.
our day-to-day assessments, we give students a particular, maybe technical problem that
Mm-hmm.
they might be even having the skills and knowledge and competencies based on their previous seafaring background, based on their current employment. They come with a strong expertise. But we're asking them to look maybe at social aspects, at structural factors that have created that problem, or solutions which can sustainably solve that problem. And this is one of the conversation I always have with the students when they see the assessment and they come back to me saying, I haven't been taught this in my TLP, in my materials. I have not been taught how to do this. And I said, well, you have been given all the instruments. Now it's your expertise and your knowledge that you have gained through which you can demonstrate to us that you can apply that. And I think this also generational gap that Waldemar was talking about is really important. And I think we can learn a lot from being more open and using the a little bit more diverse approach to appreciating how society operates today.
Absolutely. I think I completely agree with the kind of sustainability initiatives that we have. We've got these small curriculums as well. So people who cannot dedicate a lot of time to this, they can just sort of onboard onto our, SDGs, that are the 17 sustainable development goals that are there on our platform associated with UNITAR. We've also added these initiatives as a form of sustainable maritime operations. We've got GST programs specifically. And when you were talking about complexities, I think it's to do with the kind of people that are coming to leadership as well. We as educators definitely have a responsibility, sort of to help fill in that skill gap. So it's a question to both of you. What kind of skills do you think, as a maritime graduate, they can possess before entering the industry that should help them?
Competency is always important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As we said, you have to have your degree and your specialization, but competence at the moment is not enough. So in such a fast evolving world, you need to um, what you get from your undergraduate or postgraduate studies is
Mm-hmm.
the foundation. It's the beginning. It's not that you got your your certificate or your diploma and suddenly you think, okay, my education is finished, now I have to go to work. It's a continuous development, of your um, or it's a continuous process of education. So you have to um, use your CPD, if you want to call it, and keep pushing yourself, uh, on staying on top of the wave, if you want to,
Mm-hmm.
call it. Your graduate or your postgraduate will help you to be promoted,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not enough. You need to develop or re-engineer your soft skills, decision making, critical analysis, data analysis, um, understanding complexity, dealing with uncertainty. So all of those, is and not just follow the narrative. You need to challenge as well. Respectfully challenge the narrative or the decision makers as well. That sometimes probably they are too rigid in their way to see things, in particular in the maritime industry that is very traditionalist. So I don't know, Alina can probably elaborate more on this.
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Valdemar.
yeah. I think that when this question is asked, the most common answer is that you will have a list of maybe topics or
Mm-hmm.
aspects that are currently missing. And you will hear things like decarbonization, alternative fuels. You'll hear things about digitalization, automation, and robotics. Some people can come up
Mhm.
with more original names and words and try to impress audience, with some specific aspects. They are important. They are. I'm not saying that I'm not. And as an example, the latest changes that we have introduced to our programs, we have added module on maritime decarbonization. We have
Yeah.
strengthened that. But I think that based on my personal experience, but also conversations we have with one of our partners, Spinnaker, which is a recruitment agency. I had a very, very interesting conversation with their CEO where I asked him a couple of questions. And my primarily objective was, when I'm developing curriculum, I want to make sure that our graduates, that they are not only competitive on the labor market, but perhaps even filling up those gaps, that the industry needs, that the society needs. And one of the aspects that came up first was data. And it's not about how to work with the data per se, but how to be able to know what data you need for making a decision, how to know where to find the data, and how to interpret the data, understand limitations, understand what the data doesn't say, and how to apply all of that into a particular context. Um, this is why very often when students are requested to provide references, when they requested to look at the industry reports, or when we are stressing to them the value of, providing more details in their submissions, they very often feel, oh, it's a formality. No, we want to learn students to make informed decisions
Absolutely.
where before they make a call or maybe repeat a narrative that they have heard about, they have actually looked at the data, interrogated the source, interrogated what the data says and doesn't say. I think another skill that is probably not talked enough currently, and I think we are putting a lot of emphasis on the technology and how technology is going to resolve our environmental challenges, our operational
Mhm.
challenges, and drive sustainability. But I think what we are not talking enough is social aspects and ethics. I think when it
Absolutely.
comes to quite a few technologies now, we are starting to understand that introducing technology creates gaps between employees. For instance, if we talk specifically about autonomous vessels, the
Mhm.
research says that the consequences of those will be harder for less competent seafarers than more competent. So that puts a very critical ethical question to the industry. What are we going to do about it? Who is going to upskill those seafarers who do not have a permanent contract, who
Right.
is going to support them in their education, and how they
Mhm.
can prepare for the future currently. And I think ethics comes very, very close to that, because quite a few technological solutions that we are currently discussing, they are very often designed in order to solve particular efficiency operational problem. And we very often ignore the fact that technology per se changes the whole way that we operate. And it does make consequences on people, users. It can cause stress, techno stress. It can cause uh, burnout. It can even disturb teamwork on the bridge if the technology is maybe not user friendly, and instead of communicating
Mhm.
on the bridge, the team will try to solve the technical problem. It can change the line of commands on board a ship, because there are now technological means to get information to the and back from the office. So even the authority of the shipmaster is changing. The job roles are changing. So I think one of the things we need to also remember is that technology is not only solving a particular problem, it makes a comprehensive change to the way that we work and operate. And in this regard, I think taking into account people will actually strengthen the resilience of those technologies. And I think the industry have not yet realized. So I think that if students and graduates can combine those technical skills that many of them in MLA already have, and
Mhm.
our
Mhm.
degrees are very much focused for those people who have strong technical background. But if they can combine that with the strong soft skills and really design, for the lack of a better word, sustainable and resilient solutions, I think they will be very well regarded in a company.
Yeah, we go back to uncertainty and complexity. You see, technological solutions is just only one factor in a
Aspect.
web of that. When you
Hmm.
touch this specific factor, all the other factors get affected by it. So, in the end, as Alina well mentioned, we are making things work, people. So if
Absolutely.
the social aspect is not looking after or taking care of the same as the economical aspect and the environmental aspect, there will be an imbalance. There is an imbalance now, but it will, if we don't look after the social aspect, uh, which is also involves the ethical aspect, um, we we will make the gap larger.
Hmm.
So we need to basically in MLA what we're trying is to build bridges, to all these factors and have a little bit of more a generalistic way on how to approach a complex system.
Right. Thank you so much for adding insights to this conversation. I am personally illuminated. And you are absolutely right. People work with people. We can provide all sorts of tools and techniques to the students. But towards the end, I think it's also about the social skills, also about interacting with people and soft skills that you carry that you can sort of not just buy your sea time experience. How you translate that experience when you're working with people is something that is really, really crucial.
And
Um,
that let me add something to that because it's very important.
mhm.
Uh, in communication, also, what we are failing at the moment on the maritime industry is, in
Mhm.
my opinion, not doing very well. Is most of the communication is um, from the upper levels to the bottom,
Yeah. Mhm. Mhm.
and there is a lot of resistance from the upper levels to listen to the bottom. So the communication bottom up is very much disturbed or disrupted by resistance from the upper levels. Um, and we cannot learn if we don't listen to the newer generations or the mid managers or even the smallest rank in seafaring. So we
Absolutely.
need to sort of flatten, a little bit that pyramid that we have at the moment. The maritime industry on ships, things are very, you have pyramidal. You have the captain, and it's not like in the movies anymore that the captain is the law or is God or whatever the captain says. The captain is right.
It
It
goes.
doesn't work like that anymore. No. So
Hmm.
we need to uh, part of the development of soft skills is as well, learn to how to communicate in all levels.
Absolutely. I think communication should be conversational. It should not be seen as one sided. Everyone's opinions should be respected and it should be both ways, transactional. It should not come across as command that is just has to be followed. So, yeah, I think
Exactly.
resilience definitely comes from there. And before moving forward, I would
Yeah.
also like to quickly thank all our attendees for joining us today. If someone has missed the initial part of the webinar, we have got tons of webinar that are already available on our YouTube platform. Alongside that, this one also will be updated on our YouTube platform. So if in case you've missed it, please feel free to get in touch. And our panelists are also okay to attend to any questions. If you've got any specific questions or a question that you want us to discuss possibly or pick up, please feel free to drop in the questions or pop the questions in the chat, and we'll be more than happy to accommodate that as well. Thank you so much. Moving forward, my next question would be around how MLA College keeps itself aligned with the kind of evolving needs that we today see and we are afforded with in the changing maritime industry.
Thanks, Disha. We have quite a few directions of travel how we try to make sure that our students get the best experience while they're with us. One of the key priorities for me was to build a strong relationship with the industry. So
Mhm.
MLA is quite active. Those who are following us will see that we are attending quite a lot of events. So please do come and say hello and introduce yourself if you see us. As an example, we have exceptionally strong, I would even call that friendship relationships with recruitment agencies. And the conversations that I'm having with them on a regular basis as we host events together, participate in industry events, or even come across elsewhere, is I'm constantly trying to identify what are the gaps that they're experiencing, what would make a candidate, stronger candidate for an interview, what would make a candidate much more attractive. We have also attended quite a few events within the industry where we look specifically at the human resource aspects, demands of supply, and kind of demand of the workforce. So we are trying to collect all of that information and translate all of that back into curriculum. Um, with with MLA, we are using our assessments very strongly as that kind of initial. So everything we observe that is happening currently in the industry, one of the most flexible tools that we can have is to give students an opportunity to explore that topic. For instance, if we are talking about wearable technology, we like technology. Technology in the maritime industry is something you can talk and everybody will be excited to hear. If we are talking about wearable technologies for seafarers, so telemedicine, so things like that, or we could, when we could offer students an opportunity to reflect, to provide even their own opinion, what they think, would they be wearing wearable technology at workplace? Would they be welcoming that? What about their personal data? What about improving, organizational performance? So we can give students an opportunities to start exploring those topics. And that could be as little as a reflection or as much as a whole research project. If students are doing bachelor thesis, they will spend 6 to 8 months thinking about and researching that area, or perhaps more than a year if they're doing the master's degree by research project. They will develop a very strong expertise in that. So we are trying to make sure that students are exposed to the industry discourse as much as possible. But having said that, the context is in which each of our students operates is very different. So another tool that we have adopted for students, we give them freedom. We give them freedom to select the sector, to apply the same, maybe, let's say, human-centered design or, concept, but apply it to your own sector. We give students an opportunity to choose the specific aspects of their research so that that can be really instrumental for them, for maybe their career progression, either within the same organization or in another organization. And I always share this story. One of the best situations I had, I was supervising a student for master's thesis. And obviously, when we meet with a student, we ask their career aspirations, what they want. And I remember explicitly how the student said, I'm doing a degree because I want to move into a particular sector. So I said, well, maybe we should use that as a dissertation. And it just by pure coincidence, student attended the graduation. We had a meeting with them and exchanged a couple of lines. As the graduation completed, the student literally ran to me through the alley to say that they just received an email to say that they have got a job. And I think I will refer to this case as long as I am with MLA, because I think this is exactly what we want to do. We want students to play with those topics, to explore them,
Absolutely.
gain confidence in learning with somebody else who can have the feedback before they can go for the interview and say, yes, I can do that. And I had plenty of those stories.
Yeah, I have some stories too, but it's too long to tell anyway. But something that also we how MLA is remain like fresh in their approach to the maritime industries. First of all, we have partnership also with the professional organizations.
Bodies.
But from the educational point of view, when we are supervising a postgraduate or undergraduate dissertation, the students have the opportunity to choose their methodology, using primary sources or secondary sources. When using primary sources, they have to interview people from the industry. So they have to interview in every levels of the industry. So they get in touch with practitioners. And in case they decide to use secondary sources instead, primary sources, they have to use relevant, valid, and legitimate sources, like, you know, peer review journals on or industry documents that are more or less not older than 5 years. So they have to collect the data on sources that are relevant to the study, and that makes them to have fresh knowledge, during the
Mhm.
dissertation. So this is a way to somehow force the student, to talk to practitioners, read articles that are relevant, they are up to date. So when the time comes, uh, for a job interview or for a promotion,
Mhm.
they are prepared, on the uh, sort of they're prepared with fresh information, and also they know how to challenge now, the data or the information they're having. So they somehow they to help them to build confidence to be able to support their opinion or the knowledge or whatever they want to do with their careers.
Absolutely. I completely echo your thought that partnerships that we have with other industry, professionals or bodies definitely adds value. Also positions students really well when they're looking for promotions or growth.
Mm,
Going back to what Elena said, giving the freedom to the student about deciding the topic of dissertation, we definitely do provide the tools and techniques, and the TLP has got everything. But what when the student actually, because I think most of our attendees must be students as well, and people who are looking to join the maritime industry. One thing that I really want to look at from recruitment perspective, how does the last 6 months of dissertation look like, and is it a lot of engagement with the tutors, or is it just them sort of doing their independent research with the tools and techniques and everything that they've got?
Mhm. Yeah, it's a very interesting and original question. I think
Mhm,
that if we take, for instance, master's level, postgraduate level, when students has in MLA, we offer them 1 year to complete the work. I think
mhm,
the dissertation comes with like peaks and troughs where there's a more interaction at the beginning, that helps students to shape the feasible proposal, achievable within the timeline that is a available proposal. That's typically the biggest challenge, to convince student to do
mhm,
less. You would be surprised to know. But there is a lot of interaction at the very beginning where we really take a lot of lead as tutors to
mhm,
provide feedback on the draft plan, to provide feedback on their proposal, to discuss with them methodology. So there is a constant communication at the very beginning, and then when the students in start the research, that communication reduces a little bit, and that is for students also to have an opportunity to uh, tackle those problems by themselves. They will be right in one particular chapter and they need to answer those questions. Obviously, they have opportunity to contact us, but I think there is also value of sitting down with a problem and thinking what would be the expected solution.
mhm,
So if we are talking about the last half a year, this would be probably where the student has already maybe completed the proposal, they're allowed to proceed, they maybe already collected the data, they are analyzing the data. So this is quite a laborious process of a lot of admin work,
mhm,
once again, and when they start writing their results and their discussion. And then towards
mhm,
the end, we again come, even though we are reviewing chapter by chapter and offer student feedback as they go, when you have all those chapters put together, just like last month before, there's a lot of commonalities that you start to see, that you start to put together. And from my personal experience is that I find that students tend to work independently or want to work
mhm,
independently more because they feel that this is what is expected from me. And that's correct. It is expected from you to do work independently. We are not co-writing together. But at the same time, I think in MLA, we are trying to encourage more contact with the supervisor, more opportunities, because I think that there's a lot that you can learn from the feedback from the tutor, and you can learn
mhm,
from their even kind of what we call hidden curriculum, how they professionally address problems and how they act professionally. Unfortunately, in the distance learning education, you are not coming to the campus, you're not seeing your tutor there, you just correspond with them. You might have an online meeting. So I think from our standpoint, we always nudge students, send them reminders and invite them yet again for the meeting and suggest them to submit. And many of them feel that they just don't want to bother us. But I think that typically when the student complete their thesis, we are in a position where they genuinely have developed such a good understanding and competence that
Mm.
they tend to be proud of what they've done.
Hmm.
Yeah, let's remember that most of our students are professionals.
Hmm.
They're grown-up people, and they we encourage them to take ownership as well
Absolutely.
of their studies. And I usually tell my students that you are the captain of your studies. I'm not going to be chasing you. No, you are responsible for it, but I will be your pilot. So I will be assisting you in navigating this ship, safe to port. But in the end, it's you. I'm only
Absolutely.
here to support you. We do encourage engagement, but in their own time, because we understand that they are dealing at the moment, with work, with the family, some maybe deadlines at work. So um, I like to see that to see that somehow tutors we have a an open door policy, that
Hmm.
the students can contact us anytime, for advice.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for, adding your insights. Thank you, Lena, and thank you, Waldemar. This definitely, it was an interesting way to put it. As a pilot, I'm there, and you sort of be the captain of your research, and it also makes me nostalgic because I, wrote my dissertation, and at that point of time, I was on campus, right? But I felt like I was out on a limb because, I was thinking that I have to do everything on my own, and we at MLA College definitely emphasize on, sort of seeking support or reaching out to the people when required. And we've got so much expertise. We've got Alina, who has got, again, is a curriculum designer, is
Mm,
also a personal tutor on a few, like, sort of courses that we've got. And people, Alina herself, I think she's from the law background, and then she transited into the maritime sector. So people who are not, do not have sea time experience, if they want to reach out to someone, I think we've got the right sort of support for them. And, Mr. Waldemar, he himself is a master mariner. He's got the technical expertise. So if you're someone who's seagoing and is seeking that sort of support, I think we've got it all for you here at MLA College. And that being said, I've got another question. Which competencies do you think are transferable for someone who's seagoing and someone who's shore based? And how, as education providers, we prepare our students for both pathways?
Mm.
well, I mean, I can talk that by my own experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, the technical competence, it is important when you have to go back, when if you want to jump from ships to shore.
Mm-hmm.
But mainly transferable skills are soft skills. On board, we are
Absolutely.
decision makers.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's making a decision on a daily basis. In particular, higher ranks, we are looking at um, a complex system in which you need to keep everybody alive when the ship goes from A to B, uh, looking after the cargo, so the commercial operations, and also trying to minimize the pollution, while you're doing so. Um, this exercise of making decisions and analyzing situations, looking at the worst case scenarios, to be prepared for the worst case scenario. These are all transferable into, uh, shore-based business. Let's remember that this is a business, and ship owners want the best decisions for the business. Um, so the reason why sometimes you have CEOs that have, undergraduate studies on philosophy or history, or then they probably have a master's degree in business. But again, competence is important, but it's only the foundation, of your education or your career. So it is important, to keep developing that, progressively, and probably a long time learning. It's to be. The only thing is that the things that might not be transferable when you come from ships is that now you are home every day, and you have to deal also with family business, social
Right.
business. When you are on board, you are fully committed to your work. It's a workplace. You are there for many months, doing just that. So when you go back, your life changes in that sense, and that now you have to deal with, not only with the business but with the other aspect of your life.
Other aspects of your life, 100%.
That's right. But
And
it
yeah,
is,
please.
yeah, but it is transferable, in this, skills. In my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
mostly soft skills are transferable. And then
100%.
you have to come to us. You have to, uh, in order to get your degree that will allow you to progress in your career, to show that you are competent. Uh,
Absolutely.
Mhm.
that's
And I
basically
think,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, I just would like to add a little bit here. I think I completely agree with Waldemar. I think that if we are talking about seafarers, their technical expertise is so needed in the industry. They are so
Right.
competitive based on that. But I would like to offer a perspective. When they come from ship to shore, they don't speak the shore language. It's a different language. It's a different operational.
Absolutely.
So it's not uncommon that seafarers would not be maybe always offered some positions because they lack that kind of business perspective. And I think this is where
Mm-hmm.
education helps. That just in addition to understanding the shipboard technical environment, they also exposed to different stakeholders, to different industry bodies, to how conflicting priorities need to be um, put together. Some of those relate to maybe even their presentation skills, so their writing skills, because they will need to write quite a lot of information in writing, to communicate in writing. So I think the degree helps them to smoothen that transition and gain a little bit of a confidence that yes, I can do this. My tutor has supported me. I have tried, and now can move. I don't think that necessarily kind of there is a big gap, but I think it's just fine tuning that language
That's right.
between the two worlds.
Mm-hmm.
I think the language kind of metaphor works very well between the two.
Mm-hmm.
I don't speak
Yeah,
Sefarad language though.
yeah. I was, usually. I remember when I came. I retired from ships, and I think I still have this way of communicating, which is a little bit rough, for shore-based, um, personnel. So, in MLA also we help, the seafarers to uh, get more sophisticated in the way to communicate. Uh, the typical thing is, I know everything because I've been on ships, for 20 years. And yes, I'm sure you do, but here you need to support, your knowledge. You need to support your opinion. You need to know how to deliver the message, how to communicate. These are things that you
Mm-hmm.
need to learn. And I think here in MLA, we we encourage and we support that development, the communication skills. In academia, you have to, because you have to be able to write formally, to follow the academia procedure, to follow, um, certain language, to be able to communicate what you want to communicate, or how, or to answer your research questions.
Absolutely.
So, in that sense, I'm very happy to be on this side now, in order to help my seafaring colleagues, to to come over if they want to.
Navigate this.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. That is really important. I think communication, you should always be conversational, and competency definitely can be there, but at the same time, when it comes to shore-based role, it's a lot to do with how you're handling, people around you, and soft skills also come in handy with other aspects of life, as Mr. Waldemar has said. There are other aspects that you have to look at, and if you like, have that command over, the language, it should definitely come in handy. And before moving forward with other questions that I have, I've got a plenty, but we are also see a lot of our attendees participating. So I'm gonna quickly take some questions from here. I see Mr. Ahmed. Hi, Ahmed. How are you? Um, he is an alumni of animal husbandry and faculty of Halu Oleo University in Kendari. His question is, what's differences of collaboration, featuring and partnerships on multidisciplinary synergy in maritime education that may beneficiaries for realize biodiversity and food exploration challenges?
That's a
Yeah,
very,
that's the question.
very, very complicated and packed question.
Complicated and
Yeah,
technical
I
question.
think that one of the things that I wanted to clarify is that we have quite a lot of challenges when students are just looking at MLA and coming. We are dealing specifically with the maritime and shipping industry. So we have another department that deals with broader sustainability challenges towards which
Absolutely.
I think Ahmed is referring to. We are really looking
Mhm.
at the shipping business. We are looking at the carrying of cargo from A to B on the surface at the moment, and this is the limits of our expertise. So I wouldn't be very comfortable with stepping out
Absolutely.
into other fields. But if you are interested, we do have webinars that are both recorded and upcoming with a broader sustainability topic, and I think they would
Mhm,
be
mhm.
better placed to pick up those niche areas that has been mentioned.
Right.
But if you
Thank you
see,
so much.
he
Mhm,
understands already complexity, uh, so he understands that everything is interconnected somehow. So
mhm, mhm.
that's already a good thinking.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ahmed, for posting that question. We can definitely take that up. So you can send this question to me at disha.thakur@mla.ac.uk, and I shall pass this question on to the relevant person, and we shall get back to you shortly with an answer on this. Moving forward, we've got another question coming up from William Picard. The deployment of maritime autonomous surface ships, MASS, and supervised auto docking systems is changing the role of officer on watch. How should maritime training adapt to prepare students for human machine collaboration with remote operations centers, ROCs?
Mhm.
Yeah, this is all coming from now from HTCW and the how the states will tackle, you know,
Mhm,
the the new the new competence requirements, for the new life on board. We are not preparing seafarers to go to sea, but we are already, on developing the skills and the knowledge of seafarers that want to come ashore, or managers that are already in the maritime industry, shore-based offices. But I think what's happening is that at the moment all these technological advances are a little bit, you know, resisted, by
mhm,
decision makers. There will come a time that this is going to go very fast, like the use of computers or cell phones or smartphones or digital communications. And I think what's happening is the states need to look at this, at the IMO, of course. And I know they are already developing courses, to put the officer of the watch, on having the right skills to do so. However, the skills are not much different. Let's say you have to be on, instead of being on watch uh, in the bridge, on the bridge, you will probably be on watch in an office,
mhm.
like these guys that are driving drones, that are planes, so that they are basically the pilots of the plane, but in an office. So you still have to have all the navigational skills and all the regulation knowledge, to drive a vessel.
Right.
So the skills will be transferable. They are
Mhm.
transferable to autonomous uh, or drone ships, if you want to call them. So I shouldn't be that worried, about that. There will be changes in the maritime industry in how we operate ships. There are changes already, but it's easy. I think it's going to be easier for seafarers to transfer their skills to the new requirements, if you want to put it that way.
Thank you so much, Mr. Waldemar, for answering that
Mm.
question. I would appreciate the students or the attendees to ask questions that are, relevant to today's webinar. And if you've got any further questions that we're not able to attend to today, please feel free to reach out to me. Moving forward, I've got another question. We've often talked about, having soft skills, talking to people, and I know that how close knit is maritime industry. So, if this is a question open to both of you, how important do we think is networking, mentoring, and industry engagement in building successful maritime career? Do you think?
I think that from my personal experience and standpoint, I would say that it
Hmm.
is probably one of the most important aspects.
Right.
Um, the industry is close knit, but it's also global. And I think one of the
Absolutely.
challenges that we are currently exposed to is that um, there is some pockets of excellent knowledge or excellent practice, or
Hmm.
perhaps excellent employment opportunities, and they're located perhaps in different locations. So and then it's not always easy for graduates to go through all the levels of interview, all the levels of recruitment to actually get through. Typically, these days, even there's even artificial intelligence tools that screen candidates. I'm aware of
Hmm.
cases where the amount of application is so large that
Hmm.
HR office is simply not able to screen all the applications. So in this case, artificial intelligence is used, and if there's no um, buzzwords and not awareness how the
Hmm.
business operates or what needs to be put in the CV, the candidate wouldn't be able to get through. And as we all know, when you look at any CV online, it's very hard really to imagine what your job sometimes would be. I guess maybe in seafaring world it's a little bit clearer because those job roles are quite clearly delineated. But when it comes to shoreside, that is much more difficult. So
Hmm.
one of the recommendations I always give to students at the very beginning of their career is to start considering that, because you don't build network overnight. If tomorrow you decide
Overnight.
to have a new job, you're not going to build a network overnight. It takes time.
Absolutely.
So that's why I think it's quite important to start doing that early. And I think also we learn together. So we, as an educational institution, we learn from the industry, but the industry also can learn from us. So I think there is a lot that innovation that could happen that way. So yeah, I would definitely suggest that if our attendees are considering career progression, think, look at your list of contacts, look at your LinkedIn, and think about what you don't have there. So most likely there's
Hmm.
some gaps that you need to consider to fill up.
Yeah, I
100%.
agree with Alina. It is important. This is a moment when you talk the talk, when you are doing your networking. But don't forget they had to walk the walk as well. No, no, talking the talk is not enough. So if you are lucky to be employed and you have your dream job, make sure that you can also walk the walk and that you are prepared for the challenges that your dream job is bringing to you.
Absolutely. We have also, for all our attendees today, I also want them to know that we as MLA College, we provide our degrees with University of, in collaboration with University of Plymouth. So you also do get a chance to attend your graduation in the UK alongside the students from University of Plymouth. And in fact, platforms like this today that, I see so many people who have said this is the first time they're attending the webinars. I would encourage everyone to be a part of these webinars. You get to see a lot of people who are from the similar industry or who are looking sort of like, to transition to the same industry. You get the chance to speak to other people, sort of express your concerns, get the sort of feedback or industry excellence that you're looking for. We've also recently done a graduation in Singapore, I believe. That was a very, it went really well. So I would suggest everyone to sort of be a part of and be associated with a platform like, webinars, and just associate yourself with MLA College. Follow us on our, social media pages, and if anything of that sort is there, we will be more than happy to sort of, help you. And in fact, there are so many forums where students can talk to each other and sort of build onto their network. I think we're running short on time, so I'll keep it very short. As like, parting notes, I would just, my key takeaway as someone who's not from the maritime industry is that maritime industry is, you know a little complex, and maritime education is not just solely about technical expertise and intelligence and competence. It is also about the professionals, that they must be adaptable, they must be digitally aware, environmentally conscious, committed to lifelong learning. And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Waldemar and Lena for giving us their insights. It was really insightful for me personally and really illuminating. I hope this was the same case for all of our attendees today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. And I welcome you to our future webinars as well.
Thank you for having us, and very best wishes to everyone who was attending. I hope your career satisfies you, and very best wishes.
Same,
Thank you so
same.
much.
Yeah.
And if anyone has any questions, please feel free again to reach out to us. We've also have our upcoming intake, opened for September. So if in case you are interested in learning and associating yourself with MLA College, please feel free to get in touch and we shall reconvene shortly. Thank you and have a good one, everyone. Thanks. Bye bye.